gentlemen, welcome to this week's issue of the Neon Nerds podcast, where the talk is as legit as a guitar solo and a Saturday morning cartoon show. We are your hosts. I am Phil McNulty.
I'm Ryan Brady.
And welcome again to episode 4 now, where we're going to talk about the cartoon series that we grew up with and loved. We got Dr. Ryan Brady over here with his PhD in Batman Animated. We got Dr. Phil over here.
Oh no, Dr. Phil!
No. They're going to imagine me with a mustache.
Look, these mutants!
These mutants are good people. I tell you, we got 2 of them here today. They're having marital issues. It's Jean Grey Summers and Scott Summers. Now, with my PhD in X-Men Animated. And here we go. We'll get a little business out of the way first.
Yes, we got some things to talk about. At the top of the list, it is December 6th.
So you'll be hearing this on Wednesday, the December 9th.
Simple math, we couldn't even do it. The point I'm getting at is that we're 12 days away from Force Awakens. So I know that's not really 90s, but we're geeks. So.
We're geeks. We got that. We got that covered.
It's at the forefront of our minds.
And recently, the Batman v Superman trailer was out, where they revealed Doomsday.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Well, everyone, we posted some pictures up on our Facebook, which is facebook.com/NeonNerdsPodcast, and at Twitter, which is at @Neon_Nerds. And you'll be when you go to YouTube today, you'll find that episode 3 is going to be on with the pictures and visuals, which I hear are a hit.
Yeah, people are really enjoying them.
My sister had no clue who the hell Ben Reilly was until she was introduced to the pictures.
I've heard that too. People were like, "Yeah, I'm gonna listen and hear what all that Clone Saga was about." Like people were like clueless about it.
They love sexy. We have good listeners love sexy Ben Reilly. We found out. We found out that everyone who said they hated the Clone Saga, they agree with sexy Ben Reilly.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
So, do you want to go? But as we said, we're going to talk about Batman Animated, X-Men Animated. But before we get into that, we have this Batman v Superman trailer, which we had.
Yeah, we called it.
We are the Nostra fucking Dominus.
We are the Nostradamus.
Yes. You wanted. We talked about Doomsday.
Yeah, and I had no idea that they were going to reveal him. There were hints. There was talk.
But they were always like, well, you can never believe it.
It was just like, all right. And then I heard like, oh, Deathstroke's actually Batman. Like, so it was all a lot of, whatever, get out of my way.
Yeah.
And then when you see Doomsday, you're like, we called it.
Yeah,
we called it.
Which, when I saw him, I was like, oh my God, it's Michael Bay. Michael Bay Doomsday.
Yeah, I didn't understand because a lot of people were hating on it and saying it looked like Ninja Turtles. But I've seen Secret of Views like 9 times, and it did not look like a Ninja Turtle.
No, that's not the costume ones, but the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Michael Bay film.
Oh, are you talking about that Michael Bay film?
Yeah.
Phil? Oh, we don't recognize that film.
Oh, we don't.
Neon Nerds feels he does not recognize the nation of Michael Bay Ninja Turtles.
Do we recognize Edward Norton Hulk with Abomination?
Yeah, I'll recognize that.
Because he looks like Abomination.
Yeah. The court will hear Ed Norton's Hulk.
We accept Norton's Hulk because it's part of the Phase 1 of the Avengers movie, but...
And Iron Man was at the end of that movie, if you remember.
Are you going to get angry, Ryan, with we had Angry Phil last week. We're going to have Angry Ryan with Michael Bay.
Look, my nephews, right, they love Ninja Turtles. When they saw the Michael Bay trailer, they were like, ew, gross. They won't even watch that Ninja Turtles movie.
And how old are they?
Shit. Don't put me on the spot. That's like, I think they're 7 and 5.
See? 7 and 5-year-olds don't even like your movie, Michael Bay.
Yeah. They were like, why do those turtles have noses?
Why are they scaring me? There's no Vanilla Ice. Why are they singing and dancing?
And thankfully, Secret of the Ooze falls within the 90s. Oh. So we can have a Secret of the Ooze episode.
Yes, we'll watch both of them. I've never seen the third one. Is that a problem?
Oh, when they go back in time to feudal Japan, it's not a problem at all.
Okay, good. We recognize the Nerds podcast 1 and 2 of the Ninja Turtles movies.
Yeah, but as far as Doomsday goes, they're focused on that one snapshot.
Yeah.
When he pauses and they're like, oh, it looks like Abomination. It's a cave troll. It's a Ninja Turtle. But before that, he skates down a building, decimates the building, comes to a sliding halt, and then uses his like heat ray, if that's what we can call it, because it's like an atomic explosion.
Uh-huh.
And then they zoom out, and Wonder Woman has halted it with her shield.
See, I saw that and I went, Doomsday! That was my little reaction.
Oh, because Wonder Woman had stopped him?
No, because I saw that he looked like the Ninja.
Oh, you saw it?
There were no... Listen, we called Dan Jurgens the MVP last week.
Yes.
Creator of the Doomsday visual. I was like, oh my god, that thing crawling down. Like, you had to suspect that was Doomsday. Like, what other creature was that gonna be?
Yeah.
And he stands there. I'm like, there's no bone spikes.
Yeah.
There's no bone spike chin there, and there's no covers for his eyes. He has the.
I do like,
bones.
yeah, those are pretty cool.
Well, I can see if they didn't have them because he used the heat ray vision.
Oh yeah,
so
right. There's
rumors going about that. That's not his final form.
Yeah, I hope he freezes. He like Dragon Ball Z's it, and they think to defeat him, and he powers up.
And he's got the bone spikes sticking out.
I would love that.
The gray hair coming out. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, especially you need the hair.
Yeah,
Doomsday has that hair, and if anything, because now DC has to know, like, oh man, nobody thought Doomsday was cool except Ryan, so we got to make him look different. So I think they got to add the hair, they got to add the spikes.
Do you think what happened was? Do you think that was a test for us? Do you think we were their tested audience? Because they knew us comic book geeks and nerds were going to be waiting for Jim Kimmel just to see that trailer, and we're all like, blasphemy!
Yeah, let's all hop on Twitter.
And they're like, okay, here we go.
Let's make memes up. We
got concept artists and CGI workers getting ready. We got the bone spikes. We got the gray hair. Though I do like for players of the Injustice video game, he's got like his hair, the gray hair, in like a braided ponytail.
Does he?
It looks legit. It looks really rad.
You know how in movies, whenever there's like a crisis, they always like fly a helicopter to the person, and then the guy jumps out with the helicopter still on, and they run over crouched. Yeah. They need to go fly a helicopter to Dan Jurgens and run out like, we need you in Hollywood. And he's like,
Commando.
Yeah, it's Commando.
Dan Jurgens goes in. I'll join the team, but I need the help. That was. We should do. We'll do it. We'll dedicate a show to Arnold, since Arnold.
Yeah, he ruled the '90s.
We'll fund Batman Forever. We'll do an episode dedicated to Arnold.
It's Batman and Robin, Phil.
Batman and Robin.
Like I didn't want to call you out.
You can call me out because Batman Forever is the Riddler and Two-Face, which I've cosplayed as the Riddler. So all you haters out there, you burnt. No. Angry Phil.
He was a hit last week, actually.
I can't.
But you know what? This week we got to do things a little differently, Phil.
Yeah.
You were a little bit harsh last week, and last week we had our fun. We were speedballs last week, but this week it's time to be penance. And that joke was for like three people.
New Warriors fan. No. One listener to the show, Mike Strickland, said his favorite character is Speedball. So, Mike, if you're listening,
that was for you then.
That was for you. We had a Speedball joke in there.
But what I'm referring to is we've had 2 messages now.
We've had 2 messages.
Okay, so following our past episodes, we get a message from our friend Lee. And he's always very nice. He says positive things about the show. And then he always adds, like, hey, I like Iron Man. So,
kind of stop hating on them.
Yeah.
So this one is for you, Lee.
Yeah, we don't want to lose all of our fans. I don't want to call them fans. Let's call them comic book enthusiasts, fellow comic book enthusiasts.
And if you ever want to write to us, we're on Facebook. You can message us through Facebook. You can send us an email at neonnerdspodcast@gmail.com. Or if you're so inclined, you could go to our YouTube channel, go to the episodes in which we've commented on such things. You can give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and write a comment about how you like the show. If you like the visuals, the Ben Reilly one's up. I have a photo of a cosplayer as Scarlet Spider with my face photoshopped on it.
That's my favorite part.
So if you still want the one,
but it is useful when we're talking about the covers to have that photo there.
Yeah.
It really helps.
So Lee,
Yep. I compiled this list. It's right here. It's on paper.
It is. I'm looking at it.
So cool things about Iron Man. Number 1, I have his unibeam, his chest beam.
Okay.
I like that. Yeah. I don't think they use enough in the movies.
In the video game, it's awesome.
Yeah.
In the Marvel versus games, they're good. Early PlayStation games.
Oh,
yeah.
Shout out. Number 2, I liked Jeff Bridges in the movie Iron Man. In the scene where he's trying to build the arc reactor and the scientists can't do it, Jeff Bridges exclaims, "Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps!" And I love that scene. I know it's not really about Iron Man, but...
Hey, it's part of the Iron Man movie, which is one of the best Marvel-made movies. Hey, there's a compliment from me.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
I'll also add that at the time that the Iron Man came out in 2008, they praised it because they were like, they took an Iron Man who's a B-lister and they made him like big. And I never thought of Iron Man as a B-list.
I always thought he was an A-lister because he was the big 3 of the Avengers.
Yeah.
I never thought Cap, Iron Man, or Thor were B-listers. They were always A-listers in my book. But I guess coming off Spider-Man movies and X-Men movies.
Yeah, I guess Spider-Man would be the A-lister.
And Wolverine.
Yeah, and Wolverine. He's got like 9 movies now. Number 3 is my brother had an Iron Man action figure, and I guess it was back. Remember when Marvel was making those silver packages?
Yes.
Like early 90s. Mm-hmm. Well, this Iron Man, it had snap-on armor.
Oh yeah.
It was like, so you'd put on like the chest plate, you put on the helmet. He had like shoulder pads, and then the boosters on his legs.
And the wrist gauntlets.
Yeah. And I always like coveted that action figure. Even though it wasn't mine.
It's a good one.
That's a good Iron Man, yeah. That is pre-cartoon, too.
And it got you to, because if he ever was in desperate situations, he could remove the helmet and be like, "You're not listening." That's when you know shit went down.
And you saw his awesome stash.
Yes, which was my list. So far, I have one thing on it. If you can rock the mustache. But now it was 2 since we had the compliment earlier on. But no, the man can rock facial hair. I think Tony Stark without facial, no one else can pull it off in the Marvel universe. Thor sometimes gets a little straggly with the beard, but I like the classic.
Yeah, I like clean-shaven Thor.
Yeah, how about these?
Number 4 on my list of cool things about Iron Man. Do you guys remember one of his early costumes when he had the helmet? The mask could change; it could show expressions.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, so he like forges it, and he's like, now I can show expressions with my mask, which will aid in terrifying my foes. So
if he ever got angry, he could the eyes would go bent down to how eyebrows would be.
Yeah, but really it was like whenever he got like surprised, he'd be like his like face would change. And the other thing that he had on this costume was he had roller skates. Like early Iron Man had roller skates.
We have a friend in Neil Adams who had a comic about someone on rollerblades.
I'm the proud owner of Neil Adams' Skate Man #1.
Skate Man. Oh, Neil Adams.
And then my final thing of cool things about Iron Man, it was during the Civil War storyline. I didn't like his side. I was a Cap all the way. But there's one issue where Iron Man is just explaining why he's for registration, and he tells a story about how when he was drunk, he was in the Iron Man suit, and he beat Stilt Man with a street pole, like a street lamp. And I was like, all right, Iron Man. So that is my list of cool things about Iron Man.
Very nice.
So that was for you, Lee.
And Lee, if you're listening, my favorite part of the Civil War trailer is about Iron Man, when you can see the feels in his face, when he was like, "Sorry, Tony, I won't be doing this, but he's my friend." And then you see close up on RDJ, and he goes, "So was I." Like, oh my goodness. So there you go, Lee. That's for you, our shout out to Iron Man list. So don't worry, if we ever say bad things about Iron Man, we'll make a penance list of things we like about Iron Man. I know. Brian went full on out because this is a big step for the Neon Nerds podcast.
I feel like we had a lot to atone for. Not so much me, but I had to apologize for Angry Phil.
No, Angry Phil is a hit. Apparently, I've had.
Oh, I know he's a hit.
People loved people commented on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
We're like, oh yeah, shut them down. If it's one thing worse than fanboys, it's anti-fans. So Jay out there, you know who you are from Complex. 4 years ago, you never knew this was coming after you wrote that. So we expect a response in 4 years.
2019. Maybe we'll be at 200 episodes by then. We're hoping to not get a cease and desist by Wonka, and maybe get a Crunch and Munch endorsement.
Yes. Today's episode is brought to you by Crunch and Munch, buttery toffee, popcorn with peanuts. This is the exact flavor that the X-Men came in.
Yeah.
Because it was the blue. The X-Men cards came in with the blue ribbon box, I called it, because it has the blue ribbon on it. But that's where my becoming a fan of Cable came from, with my Stockholm syndrome, with the Crunch and Munch. So, before we get into it, if you want to get the Crunch and Munch ready, we're a podcast, so you can pause this. We're gonna be here when you get back, and then you can hit play when you're full in. And if you wanna order yourself a Pizza Hut, go ahead. You can do that. We'll still be here. We'll give you time. There you go. Welcome back. And you can get ready to get involved with the talk. You want to start? We started our watch today with Batman,
Yep.
and then we went on to the X-Men. We watched the first 2 episodes of Batman the Animated Series, and then watch, because Night of the Sentinels, the pilot is 2 parts for X-Men.
Right.
So you can even watch them, and then you can come back and join us again, or you can actually just listen to it and remember the fondness of when you first saw it. So we're going to start our... So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Neon Nerds Podcast 101 of Batman, the Animated Series, by Professor Ryan Brady. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. What is a cartoon? Let's get existential. No, so the first episode is On Leathery Wings, and just... what a great episode. Where to start? The whole episode is like a small movie, and they really did that with every episode.
Yeah, it's not like X-Men was more of the, here's part 1, part 2.
Continuous storyline what they built upon.
And they always went back to it, like, we'll get into this later, but Beast gets arrested in the first episode, and he doesn't get out of jail.
Yeah, he's in it for a while.
1.
But I read that somewhere. I mean, I have all this information. I don't know where I get it from. So I can't say anything. But I remember they always said that each episode was built up like a small movie. So you'd have your intro, you'd have your middle scenes, but then it always ended with like a big spectacular finale. So like watching the On Leathery Wings, they don't even introduce Batman until like the middle of the episode.
5 minutes in, I tracked it on my phone. Batman is not seen until 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You only get the shadowy figure of Man-Bat.
Yeah.
We have to give credit to Bruce Timm,
Yeah.
who basically designed the whole look of the show. It's got that 1940s appeal, harkens back to when Batman was first created.
Yeah.
I know when I do Batman drawings and I have to have a background for it, I lend it to a red background because...
Yeah, the red sky.
Because the red sky is awesome. And the 2 episodes we saw, there is no sun in it at all.
No, everything was so dark. It's actually kind of hard to make things out. But they put the blue on Batman, so you can kind of you can see him.
You get the highlights of the
off the costume.
He throws more punches. Spoiler alert! He throws more punches in the opening sequence of the opening credits with the awesome Danny Elfman theme music than he does the entire first episode.
There's another thing about that. Did you know in the 90s there was a lot of concern about like violence on TV?
Really?
Yeah. So they weren't supposed to show actual like hitting. So
because later in the episode when Batman finally confronts Man-Bat,
yeah,
he's like riding on the back of him, and then you just like you start to wailing on him.
Yeah, just punched him like right in the face.
Back.
Yeah.
Like, we believe he punched him in the face because the sound effects.
Yeah.
Like, But he's basically, you see the shot from behind and he just starts wailing on him.
So I was keeping that in mind. I was watching for it. And in the 2 episodes we saw, there wasn't too much.
No.
He hits Man-Bat, but you kind of don't see it.
Yeah,
because
you don't see it.
He's hitting him from the back.
Because the cape is flying.
So I wondered if they were, like the first couple episodes, they were trying to keep away from that. And I got this information from my book, like the unofficial guide to Spider-Man.
Really?
Yeah, so the Spider-Man cartoon, they've played by the rules. So if you watch Spider-Man, he
uses a lot of webbing.
He's always like indirectly hurting. He'll like trip them up, or like he'll shoot them with webs.
Oh, nice. We'll do a Spider-Man one every now and then, because we love the Spider-Man.
And they were always upset because Batman was winning Emmys and they weren't following the rules. Like Batman's just wailing on people.
Well, you can tell even from the opening. You've got the Danny Elfman music, so you knew they weren't playing around. This is coming off the highly successful 1989 Tim Burton Batman, and then the following 1991 Batman Returns, which is fantastic. Probably my favorite. I say that The Dark Knight is the best Batman movie because nothing's going to beat Heath Ledger Joker. Just that they really won for it.
Yeah.
My second favorite one is Batman Returns because it has the most epic Batman scene in it. Remember when the Penguin, he sends the circus out, and then the one clown has Selena Kyle with like the knife to her throat.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't move any closer, Batman. And he shoots the grappling gun, and it goes right next to the clown's head. He's like, you missed. And he pulls back on it, so like the brick from the walls hits the guy and saves Selena.
Yeah.
I feel like that is the most Batman moment out of all the Batman movies I've ever seen. Whether they be Nolan, Burton, Schumacher, that is the best. To me, that's my favorite. But you could say they took that style and they said, all right, we want our cartoon to be just as good as these movies. Yeah. And with the opening, you don't even see Man-Bat until he transforms, which they show the full.
Which is horrifying.
Oh, I was just thinking, can you imagine as a kid watching that?
That is body horror.
You see the neck contort, the teeth,
and his voice changes. He's like, "It's in me, Batman." Like,
oh my god! Because you didn't see Man-Bat was just shadows,
right?
Up until that point. You didn't. I think maybe you saw a glimpse of a leg.
Yeah.
To be like, okay, he's brown.
Yeah.
But my favorite part of that pilot episode is my favorite Batman is Detective Batman.
I'm saying this cartoon is the world's greatest Detective Batman.
Yeah.
Because no other movie he really like in Batman Returns, he remember he does the DJ thing, where like and then like Dark Knight, like
there's no Detective Batman in any of the Nolan movies.
No, he has that bullet. And he does I still don't understand it.
He does the ballistic.
Yeah, I still don't get it. He shatters a bullet, and then he reassembles it, and there's
but still, that's why it's the best.
Yeah, no, this one, yeah.
But the other ones, there wasn't really much detective work in it.
No.
But you could tell automatically Bruce Wayne is the smartest man in the room.
Yeah.
Whenever he walks into it.
Yeah.
And what's cool about this is last week, I believe it was, we talked about people saying they love Batman. They love the character Batman. They say that he's Batman first and Bruce Wayne second.
Yes.
And shout out to Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, is always going to be the voice of Batman.
When I first heard it, my ears smiled. Yeah, I was like, well,
you had the Bruce Wayne grin.
I was like, I'm 7 again.
And he changes his normal voice is when he's Batman. And he raises his voice.
Yeah.
Kind of like this.
He's like, hi, Doc.
Hi, Doc. How you doing?
Yeah.
I got some tests for you to run. I found something in my chimney. He makes a fake voice.
Yeah.
For it. And because there's one scene in the cave with Alfred.
Yeah.
And
he answers the phone.
And he's in the Batman garb. And he's like, hey, Doc. All right. Thanks for your test results. And then the next thing he goes is, he's lying, Alfred. And you're like, oh, that's great. I love how that's so. The first Batman to ever change his voice is not Christian Bale. It's Kevin Conroy.
The other cool thing about this is there's this little police drama that's playing. So the first scene is there's a police blimp, which is awesome. I don't know, blimps get me in a mood. Like, all right.
And it's still today, if you open up a Batman comic book, there you see the GCPD.
Yeah, there's still blimps.
It's great because it sets the setting like, oh my god, they're searching for crime because this is such a fucking shithole. We need goddamn blimps with lights to make sure that old ladies aren't getting mugged. Which we will talk about that later in the next episode. But.
So you see the police blimp, you see the shadow of Man-Bat. He's attacking pharmaceutical companies, getting drugs. Then the next scene is Bullock and Commissioner Gordon, and they're arguing in the mayor's office. Bullock wants a task force. They've set Batman up as this bad guy. They think he's doing
because the reports are that this Batman is throwing people out windows, which when we watched it, none of us remember this. We looked at each other when Man-Bat. First, they just showed the shadows, so you're thinking, oh my god, he's going to kill this guy. And then he lifts him over his head, he's like, oh god, he's going to really tear this guy in half. And then he throws him out the window, and you're like, holy shit. And I looked at Ryan, and Ryan looked at me, and then the next word spoken was from Ryan, he goes, oh, thank god there's water over there.
Yeah, I was like, are we going to watch this cartoon guy die?
I was scared. I don't remember the pilot as much as... Yeah, I've seen Night of the Sentinels parts 1 and 2 like over 100 times.
Yeah.
Like, but Batman is. I don't remember that one.
So, so they're setting Batman up as the bad guy.
Yeah.
And as a kid, you're probably like, "Where's Batman at?" But you're probably like, "Batman's the bad guy." Like if you don't know about Man-Bat, you might think Batman's the bad guy. First time you see Batman, which is I think this is a gutsy move. Because you would think it would open with like an opening gambit, like a James Bond type thing with Batman. First time you see Batman, he's just nonchalantly sitting in his chair in the Batcave, reading the paper, like, Man-Bat.
So what set me up, Alfred?
Yeah.
Like, he plays it all cool, and there's Alfred.
He's very cool. And the first thing he does is, let me go get some clues.
Yeah. What I like about this Batman was he wasn't, like, moody.
No.
Like, everyone wants to portray Batman as my parents are dead, but this one is like, you know what, I'm Batman. I don't have time to be fucking around with this stuff. Someone's trying to frame me. I got enough as it is, because I guess we're to presume we're very early on in the career of Batman.
Yeah.
Like, because if people think Batman is throwing people out windows, like good people out windows, then obviously Batman hasn't been around long enough. Because there is no relationship with Commissioner Gordon and Batman yet.
Yeah, that too.
It's just that Gordon has the sense of this bad vigilante's doing good. If anyone's going to talk to him, it's going to be me, because I'm the commissioner.
Yeah.
And Bullock's like, we need a vigilante task force. We're not going to... Right.
So Batman heads the pharmaceutical company, and now we need to take a little pause. Because when he glides over the building... There's two scientists who like sneak out of a room somewhere, a female and male, and they're gonna fool around. The only thing that stops them is the shadow of Batman passes over them, and they're like, oh, "What was that?"
Oh shit! Someone's spying on us.
Yeah,
we can't work the curtains. We can't work the curtains.
So this is like a whole little drama that they're playing with, these two scientists who we don't know about them.
Yeah, I know.
Are they cheating? Is this just a workplace romance?
A lot of questions. But what was great about that was before we even turned on to watch it, while Ryan was putting the DVD in the player, he looked at me and he gives me this look and he goes, "This cartoon series?" I'm like, "Yeah." Fuck kids. This is you adults out here.
It really is.
And I was like, oh, well, I remember the later episodes, like, and even more, they even push it further with Batman Beyond, but Mask of the Phantasm, I remember, was dark, right? So I'm like,
I love that
really
movie.
wasn't. So when it gets on, and you're watching, you're like, oh, okay, I can understand this, And then when you see the two people sneaking around, you're like, okay, here we go, that's right. Forget you kids. This is for adults.
And we're going to get into Gambit, too, in a little bit. But So my favorite part of the whole episode, the whole episode's great, but there's one part that I crack up at every time. So Batman, he finds a tape recording that the security guard made, and it has Man-Bat's scream on it. So he goes to the zoo to talk to some bat scientists, chiropterists, chiroptologists maybe.
Whatever, you can look it up.
Bat scientists.
Bat scientists.
And he kind of, I think he already has an idea, like one of them's behind it, because he's very coy, and he's like, oh, by the way, he says he has bats in his chimney.
Yeah.
He's like, I found this hair, and I have this sound bite. And he's like, what kind of bat is it? And he plays the sound bite, and it's the most inhumane, it's clearly not a bat. It's clearly a bat monster.
And the one woman's like, that's not like any bat I've heard of.
Yeah, but he has this little smirk too when he plays it. Like, yeah, I got you.
But like, you gotta check out. And then because what they wanted to do was they wanted to set you up to think that when he first walks in, he's like, "Oh, doctor," right? And he's like, "Yeah, it's this grumpy old guy." He's like, "Yeah, what do you want? Yeah, you donate a couple million. You think you own the place. What are you gonna do? Kill these bats? Exterminate them?" Right? And we're all like, "No, he's the Batman. He's gonna keep them in his nice little cave." But so then you see this blonde woman say, "I'm Francine Langstrom," which made me smile because I was like, "Yeah, here we go." And then she was like, "Oh, don't mind him. You know, he loves bats more than he loves people." And you're like, so if you're a kid watching, if you're not a comic book geek, you're like,
yeah,
a man bat. This guy, he's been pharmaceutical places have been robbed because that's the whole setup. Is that this giant flying bat is stealing chemicals. So the first thing you see is him messing with these chemicals on the table, and then you see this guy come up. He's like, "Oh," and Francine's like, "Oh, here's my husband Kirk." I'm like, "Yeah, I know who you are, Kirk Langstrom." But yeah, that is my favorite part is when he breaks is right after he passes the couple who's sneaking around. And he sprays like this red mist out of this can, and then he puts on these goggles, and he turns it on, and it's like, so now you see through the eyes of Batman, the red, and he's looking for the evidence. I'm like, yes, my two favorite stories, Batman stories ever, is The Long Halloween and Hush.
Yeah.
And mainly because they're detectives. Jeff Loeb writes amazing detective Batman.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yes. I loved it, and I forgot that I was expecting, punches and stuff because I haven't seen.
Oh yeah, it's very
and when
procedural. It's really good.
You see the tweezers from like the bottom right hand corner of the screen pick up the little strands of hair. You're like, yes.
Yeah, I mean overall, there's maybe 4 minutes of him actually fighting Man Bat, and the rest is just like.
It's not even really fighting. It's he.
Yeah, he tried some kind of.
Yeah, because what happened was he throws you see the horrifying image of Kirk Langstrom turn into the Man Bat. He's like, "It's in me. I can't get enough." And you're like, this guy has some serious issues. And then he throws like the desk at Batman, which traps him, right? And think about how when you're kids, you're like, "Oh my god." Right?
Yeah, witnessing that is pretty horrifying. And then even right now, it's like, oh shit.
And he shoots the back grapple and it wraps around Man.
But don't forget, Francine comes in.
Francine, that's a great part.
That scene. When Francine's like, "Kirk!" Man-Bat looks at her, and his ears go down, and he gets
this sad look on
He covers his face with his wings.
Like he's now ashamed.
Oh, the shame. And don't we all feel like that sometimes with our women?
We all get caught with our wings.
Yeah.
Our wings flapping.
Sometimes we just get so angry being men, and then we kind of feel that shame when we get called out by our women.
And you remember the sound he made? He was like... I felt so bad for him. But then I'm like, Batman, kick this giant thing's ass. He's framing you. And so most of the fight scene is him like hanging on to the bad grapple while Man-Bat flies around, and then Batman's face gets smashed against the
police blimp.
The police, which I like how they brought back the two policemen.
Yeah.
Because it opens up with them riding in the blimp, and he's like, "I've seen something." He's like, "No, you're just hallucinating, right?" "Oh man, I thought I saw something." And then it comes back, "You're hallucinating." "Oh my god, there it is." But I loved how it was hidden in the shadows. The more the episode went on,
yeah,
like the shadows started to fade away. Like it was completely shadowed. Then a little piece of a leg, then a little piece of an ear, until the final transformation. Because even the scientist, like you could obviously tell it was Kirk because he's tall and he's buff and not the old guy who's bent over like rah, rah, rah. But you could tell like, all right, they still wanted to hide that from the viewer. Very good storytelling. I loved it.
Yeah, and then he defeats Man-Bat. Then he takes him back to the Batcave, cures him of the Man-Bat sickness, and then hands him back to Francine.
It's like, don't let it happen again.
Yeah, which is like so cool. It's like what you want Batman to be.
He didn't turn him in.
No,
which was awesome. He was like, all right, I'm giving him one more shot. He just kind of got addicted.
Which is kind of juxtaposed to Bullock, because the whole episode, Bullock is like, I'm gonna bring Bratman in, you know, I'm gonna arrest him, I'm gonna bring him to justice.
Yeah.
And he's the hothead, where Batman is like, he checks the evidence, he finds this culprit. He sees that Kirk is like, Kirk's like, he says it's in him, and the Beast found out how to get the chemicals and make it himself. So he kind of feels like, oh, maybe Kirk's the victim.
How I didn't realize that now. That's awesome.
Yeah, so you're
that's why Ryan has the PhD.
You're like, man,
when
this
he
is...
pulls out words such as juxtaposition, you're like, okay, this is a lesson. But, no, which I enjoyed that episode. The balls on Bruce Timm. Said we're going to open up with Man-Bat. I still can't get over it to this day. How he went and said, we're going to go Man-Bat. And we're going to show that... now I'm just thinking, now my mind is blown with showing.
Have you ever met Bruce Timm?
Oh, Dad, have you?
I have.
Oh, how is he?
Do you want me to tell you my Bruce Timm story?
Yes.
All right, so I had gone up to New York Comic-Con. It was right when Avengers, but right before Avengers came out, because they had the Avengers thing there. So I guess 2012.
Okay.
I was going because DC was having a talent search, and I was like, maybe I can get in. Well, the train got delayed, so I missed it.
We may have been on the same train.
Uh-oh.
Did you have to switch trains? You had to get off that train and then take the top metro? I was there I was there working at the time for RZG Comics, and I had to do, because the DC talent search was there, I was up all night. Well, my brother and I were going to pitch a Superman Green Arrow story.
Yeah.
And so I pulled an all-nighter. I pulled an all-nighter, and I had to go work the booth because I was an artist there, and I had to promote the book I was on and everything. And we had to go there, and the train stopped, so we had to... Oh, my goodness.
Man, it's like we're destined to be together, Phil.
The Neon Nerds, the podcast of destiny.
Yeah, I was crushed. I mean, I didn't think I was going to get anything, because I wasn't as good at that time, but I was like, I won't even have the chance.
At least, you know what, you got to put yourself out there.
Yeah, so I had gone there, and I missed talent search, so I decided just to have some fun. It was me and my dad, and so... Bruce Timm wasn't supposed to be there. Like, he wasn't advertised. Like, come meet him.
Okay.
So he was just there.
Yeah.
And we were going downstairs for a panel. It was about Batman and the Spirit, like comparing them. And I was like, this would be cool, you know. And as I'm going down the steps, I look over and there's this kind of sign, like a weird, you know, like signs they have in the mall. They're kind of like stands.
Oh yeah, that show you like the
like a directory or something. Yeah. So he's behind one of those. He's concealed, like he's hidden.
Oh.
And I saw him, and I was like, oh, he's trying to hide. He doesn't want anyone to bother him. But I'm like, but that's fucking Bruce Timm. Yeah, I've seen enough documentary special features to know what Bruce Timm looks like. So my heart's pounding, and I'm getting all flushed, and I'm like, fuck, I gotta go talk to Bruce Timm. So I walk over, and I'm like, the sign is directly in front of me.
Yeah. Like
it's like we're on either side of a door. And I kind of peek over, and I'm like, hey, you're Bruce Timm. And he's reading a Swamp Thing, and he looks up, and he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to bother you, but thanks for making the Batman cartoon. And I'm like, my voice is doing this.
Yeah,
I'm like completely starstruck. And he's like, yeah, all right. And I guess it was his wife ran over and got in between us and like kissed him, like, hey. And then she kind of tried to save him, and I was like, oh, I'm that weird guy now. But then later, I got upset because I was like, you know what? Bruce Timm isn't Stan Lee. Like, you wouldn't recognize... Like, the ordinary person isn't going to be like, oh, fuck, it's Bruce Timm. Like, I had to watch the special features to know you are Bruce Timm.
And now all the listeners will find out next week when you go to YouTube and this one has the images up there, because I will post a picture of Bruce Timm on there.
Yeah.
So you can run in and say hi to Bruce. But he was on Fat Man on Batman.
Yeah.
And I think him and Kevin Smith just both started crying when they were talking about their love of Batman.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't want to put any negativity. I'm sure he's a busy guy.
You know what? He's probably... We don't know. A lot of people probably come up to him.
Yeah, I'm sure he was like... Yeah, he was probably like, I just want to read my fucking Swamp Thing.
You know, maybe he was looking for that issue.
Yeah, he probably just found it.
Like, oh, thank God. You know, I'm such a completionist of Swamp Thing that issue 43, I've been dying to know.
I think you're right, Phil. I think we just resolved it.
Yeah,
I think I got through some issues right now.
Yeah, there you go.
This is some good stuff.
We talked it through. Bruce Tim, if you're listening, Ryan wants to say that he loves you.
I forgive you.
He forgives you, and enjoy Swamp Thing. All right. So now,
let me turn my page.
Oh,
I got my notes.
We went full on out. We have pages of notes here. I took my dad's official office notepad. There you go. Thank you, Dad. So episode 2, I think even if you weren't a religious watcher of Batman, the animated series, I know growing up, going into elementary school, if it's one thing I heard after Jingle Bells, it was Batman Smells. Episode number 2 of the Batman animated series is Christmas with the Joker.
Conveniently, since we're in December.
I know. Everyone, welcome with the happy holidays. This one's for you. All right. So, do you want to? Well, I'm gonna let Brian take.
Do you remember the WB store?
Yes.
Right.
It had the gigantic Bugs Bunny and the giant Daffy Duck.
And it had the big screen in the back of the store.
Exactly.
I watched this episode on the big screen.
Oh, that's nice.
It was like during Christmas time it was on, and I was like, what is this? And it was amazing. So, this is the episode where Joker escapes in the beginning from the asylum, has his Christmas special, and just wreaks havoc. I actually have a list of his major crimes.
All I have is, this is literally, our notes are probably different. Mine goes Christmas with the Joker, episode 2. Batman Smells. Mark Hamill, badass on giant tree. Because the first thing you hear from the Joker, you don't see him, which is a nice another touch. He's just behind like the lyrics thing, so you think it's just like, oh, this is the inmate in the prison, in the asylum. Pulls down the notes. You see the Joker, he jumps, he's still singing Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, jumps on the tree and gets right out of there.
Yeah. And I liked how there's so much stuff that he has already put into motion, and they don't need to explain it. I guess that's my favorite thing about Joker. They're like, yeah, he has a rocketry in the asylum.
What do you want?
Yeah, he's turned the observatory into a cannon. What's up? And I love it. So some of his major crimes are he escapes from the asylum.
Okay.
He kidnaps the commissioner, Summer Gleason, the news reporter, and Bullock. He's already kidnapped them. He blows up...
Awful.
Yeah,
the awful.
Yeah. He blows up a train bridge, which is like... That's dynamite. That scene...
Was that pun intended?
Yeah. That is some good stuff. He blows up a train bridge, and Summer Gleason's like... And he pulls a candy can out, and she's like, my mother's on that train. And he's like, oh, that's even better when it blows up.
Yeah, I remember every year around Christmas time, like even back in the day, someone had a Christmas special, whether it was Bing Crosby or Jackie Gleason, and then they were like, and now today it's like Michael Bublé's Christmas special. Like they had their variety shows.
Yeah.
So that's what it sets up with. You don't even see the Joker in his traditional purple.
Yeah, you're right. No,
it's just the red cardigan.
Yeah,
like a very Mr. Rogers type look to it. My major surprise with this episode was, I was like, Robin's in it right away.
Yeah.
There's no explanation to who Robin is.
He actually comes and goes.
Yeah.
Some episodes he's in, some he's not, and they're never like, oh, Dick. They're just like,
hey, Robin.
Yeah. Sometimes he's there, sometimes he's not.
Which was fun for me because I loved Robin. I had all the Robin action figures when I was a kid. Like I always saw my dad as Batman.
Yeah.
So therefore I could not be a Batman fan. I was a Robin fan. So that was my little thing. So I was surprised. I was like, Robin. I even turned to Robin. I felt like I was 6 again. I turned to Robin and said, I didn't know Robin was this. I got so excited.
I always liked him. It was just Batman, but the Robin episodes, he needs to be in them. He's there because this one, he's trying to get Batman to watch It's a Wonderful Life. He's trying to get Batman to get in the Christmas spirit.
When he said, oh, we should sit down and watch It's a Wonderful Life, can't you? Here's what I talked about earlier. Robin's like, come on, Batman. don't you believe in just one night we don't have to be out on the streets? And Batman's like, ugh. Right, he's like, we can watch It's a Wonderful Life, and he's like, I've never seen it, and the one he's like, I could never get past the title, which is like a Batman line if I ever heard it. It's not a wonderful life. My parents are dead.
Exactly.
I can't have a loved one in my life because then I subject them to these evil assholes like this Joker who's running around the Christmas special. But
he's very cut and dry.
Yeah.
Robin's like, don't you think Joker's at home spending Christmas with his family? He doesn't have a family. Like, he just knows.
But it's great because I too have never seen It's a Wonderful Life.
Me neither.
We're with you, Batman.
We are the Batman and Robins of podcasting.
We can't get past your title either. And but that was what I liked because it made me laugh. Like I was like, haha. But then you realize that Robin is great in this episode because he fuels. He basically is like. You can give lessons that he's like, oh, this is about how one man can make a difference. Sound familiar? I love how Robin's sort of that, because I felt like this episode was more kind of geared towards us kids because we're like, oh, Christmas!
Yeah. Right?
But still, it had that underlying tone of, I can never get past The Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, without Robin, this is a horribly dark episode.
Yeah, Robin is because I realized I'm laughing at the Joker, and here he's like, "I'm going to kill people." And I'm like, haha, oh Joker!
He's gonna crash on the train.
He's dipping him in lava, and at the end of the episode, he's ready to dip the lawful family in the. But during that episode, when I talked about like people are robbing people are gonna rob people on Christmas, like you see this guy, and he's running after this old woman, and Batman swinging across the street, and just as he's like about to beat this guy into submission, the guy's like, "Hey, lady, you dropped your package."
He says that exact same voice too.
He's like, "Hey, dude, hey, grandma, dude, you kind of dropped your package." She's like, "Oh, this is what a good boy you are." Right? So Robin's like, "See, Batman, only good people are out on Christmas Eve."
And Batman replies by throwing his bat rope and swinging away. Like, I'm not done with this night yet, Robin.
And that's when they finally sit down to watch It's a Wonderful Life. And then it's like, welcome to this Christmas special, which Ryan mentioned something very nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the one thing I've always noticed in the animated series is that the televisions were always black and white. Another one of those, 1940s choices. But the Christmas special is in color. And maybe it's because it was an early episode. Maybe they decided to do black and white later.
Or I think it's just the showing of the Joker.
Maybe the Joker's power. Maybe the Joker, he broke out, has Technicolor, bombs a bridge. I'll buy it.
The man rides out on a tree, on a mechanical tree. He rigs the observatory to shoot these rockets, Batman and Robin. He has a gigantic, Jack-in-the-Box present.
And he has automated killer toy soldiers.
And so he's well to do in this episode.
Oh, another thing I want to mention, that in the cartoon, in both first episode and this episode, they shoot real guns at Batman.
Yeah.
Which you didn't really see at that time. It was usually like lasers. Because for some reason they're not as dangerous. Even in
the X-Men animated, which we'll talk about in the second part of this episode, they're shooting lasers at them.
Yeah.
Like even people get shot in the X-Men, believe you me. So I guess it's lasers are less powerful.
I guess because lasers would hit them but not go through them.
I guess so. It's more like a stun gun type of effect as opposed to bullets are finite and they kill.
Yeah, but they use bullets in Batman, which I always enjoyed.
And they even show the bullets peppered through Batman's face, yeah. And just like the teddy bear, and he falls down on them and like, I love you.
There's a lot of destruction. There's a lot of explosions, which is great.
And and another, which they also had the Detective Batman, because Joker sent a wrong signal just to get them to the observatory to start shooting at him. Yeah. And they're not here. And it isn't until the Joker makes that mistake of the what is it? The Betty Boop.
The Betty Blooper doll.
Which is just like Betty Boop, but they don't want to. They're not like Beyond Nerds. They changed it to Betty Blooper.
That's another line that I like. He's like, "You wind them up, and they wreak havoc on Gotham City."
So he's like, and Robin was like, "Oh man, that's such an old toy." And he's like, "Precisely." He's like, they went out when the company Laughco went out. And that's when Batman's like, "I know where he is."
Yeah, Laughco. They went out of business 14 years ago.
So,
pushing those buttons. I like the triangle button on the keypad.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's that do?
And there was one part that when I'm at shows, everyone goes, "The X-Men cartoon is dated," and I'm like, "Oh well, didn't you think some of the Batman episodes were dated?" And they're like, No. There's one part when they're taking down, like, when they finally get to the Laughco factory.
Yeah.
Joker turns on, like, these giant Sentinel type nutcrackers, like, or army men rather.
Yeah.
Starting there, and then you're like, all right. And then he sends, and after Robin swings and knocks their heads off, and Batman ties, Joker sends these planes, these like after him, and Batman's like, "Oh, here's a bat on the ground," and he starts swinging, and Robin's like, they do call you Batman, right? And I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, I love a good pun, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I get that, but if people are like, "Oh, it doesn't hold up well," but once again, Batman just shows you this ain't for kid, because the next words uttered is Batman going, "Snipers!" And they start shooting real bullets at Batman and Robin again. You're like, all right.
It's pretty violent for a Christmas episode, but it's great. No, I watch it every year at Christmas.
We started a little bit early this year.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be the second episode.
No, that was exciting for me. We knew that the Joker had to be.
I thought it was going to be the trash episode, where he has the trash barge, and all the trash smell is Joker gas.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Which is another good episode.
There's a lot of Joker episodes, because Mark Hamill is the man. He's great. He is the voice of the Joker. They try to do it in other cartoons. Like,
yeah, there was the Batman.
The Batman, Joker had a voice like this.
Yeah, and he was weird. I didn't get him.
He looked like a hyena or a cheetah type. Like, I remember in Batman Beyond they had like the splicers.
Yeah.
Where the people would like splice their genes to have like sort of animal features. I was like, no, the same Batman Beyond, futuristic. And then they had Batman Brave and the Bold, which was alright, but it's not.
That was definitely more kid oriented. Yeah.
So I mean, this was, you're like, oh shit, this is the Joker. So Mark Hamill is the Joker. All you kids out there listening. He's your Joker in the Arkham games.
Yeah, and pick up season 1 of Batman animated series.
Yeah, it's great. You can get it on DVDs are cheap now.
Whether you're a kid or an adult, because I watched these when I was a kid, and like
they still hold up. Yeah, today. It's good.
I actually like them better. Because the more we watch, the more episodes we get into. I'll get to episodes that I hated as a kid because Batman was barely in it. But when you watch him as an adult, you're like, this is some good storytelling.
I remember the episode, which we'll talk, because we're going to do this once a month. So every 4 episodes, we're going to do a sit-down watch of Batman and X-Men.
So episode 8 will be another.
Episode 8 will be the next couple episodes of, which is funny because with my X-Men, I know, all right, I know what next episode is. I know what's coming up, but I haven't seen Batman in so long that it's like, oh, I wonder who the next.
Yeah, there's so many episodes that I'm looking forward to getting to. Like the one with the Sewer King.
Because the one I was going to talk about, remember the Gray Ghost?
Yeah.
Like Batman's childhood hero? I'm like, what the hell is this?
I recorded his theme song on my phone, like on my flip phone when I was like in high school. And I was like, dun, 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 out of the shadow comes the Gray Ghost. That's a great episode.
I remember not liking that as a kid because I'm like, it's in black and white.
Yeah,
and me being on a Robin kick, I'm like, there's no Robin in this episode.
And also, you're like, Batman doesn't need help. Get this Gray Ghost out of here.
Yeah, and now when you watch it, you have such a good appreciation.
Yeah, that's such a good. You're like Adam West passing the torch. It's brilliant.
It is phenomenal. So we suggest you all go out, do yourself a favor, get the DVDs of Batman the Animated Series. They're cheap. You can get them used for even cheaper.
I think I saw it for $13 at Walmart, actually.
Yeah. And I know FYE, I saw them the other day, they were about $15.99.
Yeah.
They're like, here's cut half price on these because they're DVDs and not Blu-ray. Which are cartoons. You don't need them to be in Blu-ray.
No, yeah, we're going to see the brush strokes.
So we'll probably do, we're going to do 2 episodes. We set the standard 2 episodes.
Sounds good. 2
episodes a month. We're going to watch and we're going to recap. So, final thoughts on Batman before we get into X-Men.
No, I think we said a lot.
We got it. We got it. All right.
All right. Time for your PhD. Go ahead.
If you can hear this, it's me warming my hands up to Night of the Sentinels, Part 1 and Part 2 of X-Men the Animated Series. I have loved nothing more in my life growing up.
Oh, good. It's a good thing you added that.
X-Men the Animated Series.
Because your girlfriend listens to this, doesn't she?
And I love her very much. This is a shout out to this show. Is one of the key moments in my life. My girlfriend, Heather, her favorite character is Rogue. My favorite character is Gambit. Match made in Destiny with this cartoon show because she got introduced into comic books and she loves the X-Men. Like any X-Men you can know, she knows it. And it started with her watching this cartoon show. And I obviously, when I watched it, this is what made me say, I'm going to be a comic book artist because I love this guy in pink throwing cards. But yeah, so this was my show.
Yeah.
I love it. And so we're gonna start out with Jubilee. We start with Jubilee, and she's upstairs in her room crying because she's upset because her parents are like, look what she did to the VCR just by touching it. She's a mutant, and it's her foster parents, and the father registered.
Did the foster father remind you of anybody? Because every time I saw him on the screen, I was like, that's just Ray from the Ghostbusters cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
It's Ray.
He did look like him. Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit heavier.
A little bit heavier, but still.
Yeah.
Now he registers Jubilee with the Mutant Control Agency, which here we go. You don't want to. We're now, as we alluded to a little bit last week. We said that it holds up because there is a certain presidential candidate who wants to have a certain registration. Well, here we go. So we're at Jubilee's house. She's like, they don't love me anymore, right? I thought they loved me. Because the poor kid's a foster kid, right?
Yeah, she's been passed around.
She's going through these issues, right? So the next thing you see is the Sentinel coming out and Ryan looked at me during this time because as the Sentinel lands, there's a dog that runs up to him and he goes to grab the dog.
Yeah, he tries to grab the dog.
And the dog runs away. And this is very important for you listeners out there. Remember this moment when I mentioned this damn dog.
Because what grabbed me was that, number one, he tried to grab it immediately.
Yeah, he was like...
And I was like, well, shouldn't he have scanned it first? Because every time else in the episode, he scans them before he attacks. Because he's only looking for Jubilee.
So you're saying the dog is a mutant?
I think the dog might be a mutant.
We will further...
Yeah, it's going to come back.
So already, I always say this is the most progressive cartoon because the father's unfortunate people, how he describes.
He does say that.
She's unfortunate, right? So the Sentinel breaks in and Jubilee, because the room is destroyed, and here you see Jubilee's at the mall, at the arcade. Right, which back in the day, people, for you kids who don't have arcades anymore, it was the best. You could go in, you could meet up your friends, you could play video games, and so she goes to the arcade, she's crying, she's like, oh no, they don't want me. I just want to be normal. It's not my fault I'm a mutant, right? She was like, it's not my fault I was born this way. And they're like, none of us are ever born. When we're born a certain way. We're just not.
Oh yeah, I wrote that. She's definitely dealing with some heavy issues, and she's like 13 or
yeah, 13. She's around 13, 16, in whatever way you want to.
That is some heavy stuff.
I know.
I'm sure there's people out there that have dealt with that. Like, oh, my parents aren't accepting me.
Yeah.
But on top of that, she's being pursued by like
a giant,
12-foot purple robot. And this robot does not have any respect for property.
No.
Which made me think, is this a viable program? But then I found it's privately owned.
Yeah.
They say that later. But I was like, is the government funding this? There's just so much property damage.
Because it crushes the poor guy's fence. And then it crushes the poor guy's fence, and then he punches through the front building of the mall. And because what happened was Jubilee blows up the arcade game by accident because she's just getting her mutant powers going, so she can't control them. It blows up the arcade game. And the Stanley lookalikes we don't want any of you muties around here. So now we've already been introduced to derogatory form to these people. And this is where, being a guy watching this, I never paid attention to this. It wasn't until I was talking to Heather about this, and she goes, what made me love this was strong female characters, as a young girl watching this. The first two X-Men the first three X-Men you're introduced to is first Jubilee.
Right.
And then second is a tie between Rogue and Storm because they're doing shopping in the mall.
Yeah.
Right. Which is a cool thing. Okay, the women are shopping, right? And then she walks into them, she runs into them, she's like, and Jubilee gives them the snarky, hey, move it, right?
Yeah.
And so they're like, all right. And they're the actual first two characters you see use their mutant abilities.
Yeah.
Rogue and Storm.
They defend
cool
her.
Is that?
They don't take shit. There's a giant robot give us Jubilee, and they're like, I'm Storm.
Storm has a great line about Rogue. She's like, oh, that's Rogue. She has a way with men.
Yeah, as Rogue punches a Sentinel in the face.
Yeah.
Which, it's very cool for women.
But peppered in between this, we get...
There's a little drama on the side.
Introduction to Mr. Remy LeBeau, Gambit. He's at a card... It's funny because... if you think anyone hears the Sentinel punching the front part of the mall in, you're wrong, because obviously it's just glass that shatters. But Gambit is doing his thing. As you see the Sentinel walk in the background, you see Gambit go up with these giant decks of cards, these piles of cards, and he puts them on there. And she's like, oh, there's a lot of cards. He's like, I like solitaire. Plus I got someone to play with, and you're like... And there's a pause.
You gotta add the pause.
Because she's staring at him. She's
leaned over.
She's leaned over the counter.
She's very on display.
And then he leans forward into it when he's like, to play with. He leans forward too, and you're like, the first thing Ryan goes is, he's gonna fuck this. Watching it now. But that's our first introduction to Gambit there, and then again after Rogue punches the Sentinel in the face, Storm gets she changes her outfit into her X-Men white uniform, her costume. You flip back to Gambit, she's like, anything else I can offer you? And you're like, oh man, this is the X-Men's answer to Batman. People getting bit.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of little sex scenes in between the stuff in these kids' cartoons.
So obviously punches it, and then when she's running away, if you're Jubilee, you're understandable. Oh my god, and she says it, which is funny. She's like, I'm freaking out here, there's people chasing me in the mall, giant robots running everywhere, right? And so when she's running away, the Sentinel blasts the floor, and there's Gambit, catches her, where are you going, right?
Gambit is very chill the entire time.
The entire episode.
The girl he's trying to get with is like, there's a robot! And he's like, your insurance will cover it? Damn.
He's got all the answers, he's the best. This is when... And it was this part when he catches her and he's starting the cards, and she's like, how'd you do that? And he's like, with style, petite. Which style? I was like, don't worry. He's like, Gambit a mutant too. I'll help you, right? And it's like, and then he gets hit with, and what happens is Rogue gets blasted by the Sentinel. Storm gets hit by the Sentinel, right?
Yeah.
With the lasers, and then Gambit gets hit with the lasers, and that's when Jubilee's like, oh shit, this guy tried to save me, because then you're like, oh, the Sentinel's gonna grab Gambit because and she blasts him with the fireworks, and even she goes, this is crazy, which is what I love, because you're in they very first introduced Jubilee, because you're supposed to be Jubilee through this. You go through certain times where people don't like you, you don't think you're going to be accepted for liking certain things. And this is when I was 5. I wasn't even I was just in kindergarten.
So you didn't hit puberty yet.
So I didn't hit puberty, but I understood, like, being the kid that didn't want to be there, because when I showed up there, a lot of people said they knew each other from preschool. I didn't go to preschool. I was just there, like, I was there with my twin, and I basically, like, threw up the entire first day, because I didn't know what school was. I just know that they were taking me away from my mom.
Yeah.
And I'm here in this place. What is this? I was not prepared for school. But then you could kind of tell, like, I was already the weird kid, because I knew nobody there. Right. I felt like I was going to vomit. Right. So you're like, all right. So everyone goes even through that time. And even if you're, 10 to 13, you understand you're going through certain things, or people don't like you. You like something that nobody else likes. So you just want to be accepted. And ultimately, she runs out, Cyclops blasts the Sentinel, and then we get
don't forget though. So after after this is I laughed at this part. After the Sentinel has decimated the mall, trying to capture Jubilee, he's just had to fight 3 mutants he didn't come for. Jubilee's running. He decides now's a good time to just use a smoke bomb and knock her out.
With knockout gas.
Yeah, just do that from the beginning. And then Cyclops is there, and he has a cool line, because the Sentinel tries to shoot a laser at him, and he's like, oh, a laser? How about
one from a pro?
Yeah, and he blasts the Sentinel's head off. That was the coolest thing, because, like, there are things you can do to robots that you can't do to humans. So you can get really violent.
Sentinels with a perfect foil.
Yeah, you can get really violent with those Sentinels. So he's blowing their heads off. They're blowing limbs off later. And then
you find out that these Sentinels are from the mutant registration program, in which if you're registered with the Mutant Control Agency, your records are on file. And this is when they actually investigate this giant. They bring the Sentinel head back to the X Mansion, and they actually pull, like, the records from it, and that's where they see the file. And they introduce us to Gyrick, who's, like, the government liaison between the president and this program, which you get more details on in the second part 2. But Ryan's like, this shit is progressive.
Oh yeah.
Why?
Because the president is a female.
There you go.
So it's ahead of their time.
It wasn't. I think this is a good move by the creators of the show. When you think about it, they were like, all right, this is the X-Men comic books. It's a male-oriented thing, but they weren't afraid to say, all right, here's Rogue and Storm. They're the first 2 you see use their mutant powers, and they kind of introduce Gambit as the first male hero that they introduce, and then they show you Cyclops. But it's cool that here are these strong female characters, and here's a woman president, to kind of get the girls involved to watch the show, because it's the X-Men. It's for everybody.
And Storm is the one who tells Jubilee about, like, where the X-Men, people fear what they don't understand. Not even Professor X.
I've used that for every single level of schooling and for a paper. I've used that line. One time in high school, we had to write like things from our past that shaped us that wasn't by our parents.
Yeah.
Like how it was like a creative writing class for like media and all that. So I said the X-Men cartoon was like people fear what they don't understand. I drew Storm on the cover of it. Right. But no, how cool is that? Is she's the one who says, we're here at the Xavier Institute for Gifted. And then Jubilee's like, oh, gifted, that's just calling us for freaks. And then Storm is like all of us. Like, she's like, I'm not putting up with this angsty teen. Like, she's like, listen, I'm very comforted. Storm always felt like the motherly figure.
Yeah. And
you get the Boy Scout and Cyclops, right? But we all know, like, Xavier's, like, the father figure of the group, and you get So you introduce the Storm, like the field command leader, and you're like, all right, she's telling us people fear what they don't understand, and that's why they're going for it. So then we're introduced to Morph, and we're introduced to all the cast of characters. We're introduced to Wolverine, Beast, and
Jean Grey, and
we're there. And so they said, all right, we need to go stop this. We need to go find these Sentinels and kind of stop this. We need to destroy the files, is what they had to do.
Yeah.
Because Jubilee's just one of many registered. That this basically gives this private agency a way to hunt mutants, right? So they go there, and you're introduced to, as you say, you're very introduced to Morph a lot during the bottom half of the first part. He's the comic relief guy. Mm-hmm. Like, Wolverine has a problem with everybody. He's like, I go where I want to go to.
Yeah, he says that a few times.
Right. He's and then he pushes Gambit. And Gambit, who's been chill the entire episode, like, pulls that card out and, like, ready to, like, you want to throw down. And so, basically, you see, the only person he doesn't have a problem with is Morph.
Yeah, for some reason.
He always made me laugh. But, and they very early on, they tease the tension between Jean Grey, the love triangle. Did you notice that when it's Wolverine and Cyclops, and Jean runs down in the hallway, both of them look at the same time?
Yeah.
So, but they go to the.
Well, Jubilee also she flees
to save her parents. Yes. Yeah.
She gets captured.
She gets captured because she wants to say her parents. She wants to tell her parents they're all right because they must be scared. And that's when the smoke thing goes out, knocks her out. They capture Jubilee, so they destroy the files, and during this, and the episode basically ends with Jean Grey's monitoring, using Cerebro to monitor, and she's like, ah, Beast, Morph. She's like, can't you feel it? And then Xavier puts on Cerebro, and he's like, I can't feel anything. You're like, oh, because they don't show you what happens until part 2. You got to come back, which was right after that, and they show the recap of the fight where.
Some things that we left out though. So first, talking about dating, the show being dated, like the arcade. I can forgive because I love arcades. So the most dated thing to me was when they went to the actual registration agency and they started to pull out like paper files, and then they made a fire in the building to burn on the files.
Smoke or water things to go off to transcend it. Though it was very advanced in the fact that there were no cell phones really.
No, yeah, Gyrich
has a flip phone.
Yeah, he had one.
And then Beast is doing, like, he's putting a virus on the computer to delete all of the...
Yeah, I guess they had backups on the computer and the paper files.
So, maybe, I like that.
And then we also forgot to mention, so Wolverine goes to find Jubilee.
Yes, that's right.
We have to go back to this part.
This is integral.
They all arrive at the gate. And they're like, all right, we're going to break in. And then Wolverine is there.
And Gambit's like, finally decided to join us, eh? And he's like, yeah.
He's like, the trail went cold.
Got bit by a dog, too.
The dog comes back.
I'm telling you this right now. I just celebrated my 28th birthday. I saw this when I was 5 years old. Over 100 times watching this. 23 years in the making. I always said, what the hell is Wolverine talking about? Got bit by a dog too? What the hell is he why did he have to throw that in there? It's that damn dog, the Sentinel, tried to grab early on. I never put 2 and 2 together till right then and there. I was jumped out of my seat. I can't believe I skipped this by because I have an asterisk right next to here.
Oh, I didn't want to miss it because I think. Yeah. What do you think about the dog? Do you think it's a mutant?
No, it's just a pain in the ass dog.
I think maybe it might be a mutant.
You think it's a mutant?
I think the dog probably takes his face off, and it's Magneto, and he's like, "You were bit by Magneto."
Let's give props to the producers on this cartoon. The villains were introduced are humans.
Yeah.
Gyrich, and then even Cyclops says like, when they're getting shot at during like the climax of the beginning part picks up where part 2 picks up where part 1 left off. So they send in the troops to attack the X-Men, and then Cyclops like, make sure no humans get hurt, and then Gambit's like, you tell them not to harm us.
Yeah.
Right. So the X-Men are doing everything not to hurt the humans, like just showing you that Jubilee's been kidnapped by these people. They're shooting at, and the president even mentions this later on, which is like, we're shutting this down now because these mutants risked their lives to destroy these files. What was the reason?
Yeah.
She basically says, the jig is up, guys.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, the Sentinel program that you're running, it's a hunting is what it is. It's not a registration at all. And that's when she says the privately, you know, we're cutting you off from your privately funded.
Yeah.
And Gyra Tate for mutants is so much that even at the end of the episode, he grabs the creator of the Sentinels, and it's like, our work here is not done.
Yeah, we're going to take it overseas.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, shit.
Which you find out later on. It's little. What I love about the show is this was like, while Batman was the little movies in each one, this set up for later episodes, because you'll find out when they bring up Genosha,
There's a lot of callback.
There's a lot of callback to this first, and that's like 13. I think that's episode 13.
Yeah.
The Genoshan episode.
Yeah, which you can appreciate, at least I can, now that I'm older. Because as a kid, sometimes you'd miss it, because you slept in, and then you'd be like, I don't know what the hell's going on.
What do you mean they're gonna
take
this overseas?
But watching it, all together, it's good. But you're right, because watching the theme music, Magneto's in the intro.
And they show they even show up with Sabretooth.
Yeah, they show the Brotherhood of Mutants. Oh yeah, in the first scene, on the news. They show Sabretooth.
Because Senator Kelly is introduced as basically this figure that keeps popping up saying it's like all mutants had the potential to be dangerous.
Yeah.
And is that not fitting today? Where there's a certain religious group that's being targeted.
Yeah, they're
all of them are potentially dangerous.
Wow, it really does hold up.
It does hold up.
But it is a smart choice not to have Magneto be the first villain. Right. It's because even kids, you have to be like, oh, you know, Jubilee's innocent. She hasn't done anything wrong. These guys are clearly the bad guys.
You're humanizing the X-Men. You're showing why, when you're a kid and you have no prior knowledge of the X-Men at all, they set it up to show you that they're different from humans. They have these special powers, and they're hated by these people because they basically don't understand what they are. They think that since they have powers, they can be dangerous. Yeah. So we're here to empathize with the X-Men, and that's why. And even the president says these people put their lives on the line, and that's when we're introduced to the very sad scene of Morph, the comic relief guy. When Gambit's pissed, which is cool because if you know about Gambit, they never mention it until later on, like 8 episodes further in. He's part of the Thieves Guild, and obviously in the comics, they say Gambit's the greatest thief in the Marvel Universe. So he's like, I get in there easy, right? And so he's pissed.
Yeah.
He's obviously pissed, and like when Cyclops is like, I wish I knew what's going on in there. There he is, like playing with his cards, going, that was me in there, you wouldn't have to worry. This is why I love Gambit. Like this, if you were a kid at that time and you were introduced to this for the first time, like I think that's why Gambit still people still love Gambit today, is because of this show. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's what even Channing Tatum, who's getting the Gambit movie that's going to be coming out, he said he fell in love with Gambit when he saw the cartoon series.
Well, hopefully, since last week we talked about Doomsday, and then we got a Doomsday in a trailer, maybe since we talked about Gambit, we'll get a Gambit trailer.
Or because they start filming in March, because they're getting ready, they're going to start with Mardi Gras. It's set up in New Orleans. So hopefully we get a picture of Channing Tatum in the Gambit costume, because seeing Deadpool's costume being ripped, because Gambit and Deadpool, those solos movies are these are their first characters not named Wolverine getting their own solo movies. Yeah. And Deadpool's costume is right from the comics. There's even the belt is Deadpool's face. Yeah. I'm hoping that Channing Tatum's like, because Channing Tatum was in the creative discussion for the costume. He's like, I want the head sock, like I want that headpiece. He's like, we have to have the trench coat. He's like, I want pink, right? So he's up for having all of that. And I just saw a recent. I know we're getting a little away, but Gambit is in the '90s. Gambit is this.
No, you're fine. This is a free podcast.
Yeah, that's right. He lost so much weight. Like,
to play Gambit?
He lost weight to get lanky, and his hair is like buzzed on the sides, except for the top, which is getting really long for the head sock, for the hair to be sticking out.
I hope he pulls it off.
He pulls it off. Channing Tatum, if you're listening to this,
we're all rooting for you.
We're all rooting for you, man. He's working on the accent. Back at the San Diego Comic-Con, he did a little bit of the accent. Like, and it's not full-on Cajun, but it sort of sounds like a little bit of the animated series, kind of like with a southern hint to it.
Yeah.
He's like, how y'all doing out there? And you're like, oh my god, he worked on an accent. It's already better than Taylor Kitsch and Anna Paquin, who were supposed to be the southerners. And Halle Berry, who tried an accent in and out. Like, he's dedicated to it. So I'm excited
I hope it really works out then.
But I think that's why... But this cartoon really introduced you to Gambit as being the fun, chill character.
Yeah.
That you can, like, I remember as a kid, like even me today, I've always been laid back. So it's like I've related to Gambit, like just being like, all right, you want to throw whatever you want to me, I'm gonna handle it. Because even when they're fighting like the Sentinels, when they go the Rescue Jubilee,
yeah.
Because we'll get to that later. But Morph died.
Mm-hmm.
Beast is shot
and captured
into an electrical
yeah, electrified fence.
Right, and he's like, you just see him like, okay, he's breathing, so you understand. And then they're like, he goes, and so Gyrick said, this is what really makes you hate Gyrick. When he goes up to him, he's like, tell me about your group, right? And Beast is like, another time, because Beast, when you're introduced, he's quoting Archimedes, right? He's reciting poetry. The total opposite of how you think Beast would look.
He's asking existential questions too.
He's like, security. Are any of us truly secure? I was like, oh man. But you're introduced to the Beast as this highly intellectual character. Somebody's like, another time, and he starts crying, and he's like, Morph. And Gyrick's like, it's your funeral. I was like, what a prick. His friend just was killed, and you're saying it's your funeral? They haven't even gotten time to... No one knows where the hell Morph's body is. Foreshadowing.
Oh.
But can you imagine that as a kid? Morph's killed, and then Wolverine takes it hard.
Oh yeah, that's another issue that's pretty adult, is Wolverine dealing with survivor's guilt.
Yeah. Because
they get overwhelmed by Sentinels, and Cyclops pulls him out of there.
And he's like, we gotta go back.
Yeah.
We can save them. And then the Rogue zaps. She calls him zaps his power. She touches him, absorbs his powers. Which I always thought would be a funny, like, if I ever were to make a cartoon, I'd want to know the plane ride back to the X-Mansion. Because when Rogue absorbs a power or person, she takes on their personality traits. So she probably would have been grumpy as like with Wolverine.
She probably been like, I go where I want to go.
I go where I want to go. And Gabe's like, calm down, Cher. No, don't worry. And she's like, no, don't you understand, Gumbo? And he's like, hey, hurt my feelings. I don't care. Can you imagine that plane ride? Like, oh god, now I gotta deal with Wolverine again.
Yeah, so when they get back, Wolverine just gut punches Cyclops and then trashes his car.
Oh, first of all, he punches him. Eat dirt. It's like, that's right.
Yeah, eat dirt.
When someone made fun of me, my first time someone ever told me that was like making fun of me, I told them to eat dirt. Because I remember that. Like, I thought this was the most badass line. Eat dirt. And he's like, next time, I'll use these. And he shows the claws, and you're like... But that's what's really cool. Like, you went through the different stages of grief through Wolverine. You had that. You had the anger of it. And then you had, like, the mourning. And he had survivor's guilt, as Ryan said, because he even goes... He trashes Cyclops' car.
Yeah.
He's like, I made him a convertible. And then Jean's like, it's not your fault either.
Yeah.
And then he goes and he mourns on the top of the hill, and he's like, I will avenge you.
On this little place. And then he goes to the club. He goes to the billiards club.
The billiards club, and that's when Cyclops like, listen, we have a plan to get these Sentinels. You know, and he's like, when and where? So they go to Jubilee's family. They're like, listen, these Sentinels have your foster kid. And then Ray Stantz was like, you gotta get out of here. So that was exactly the plan. They knew that if they made contact with the parents, he would they get the Sentinels. They found them, and they had them one of probably the 90s podcast right here. Cyclops has the most 90s.
Yeah, he does.
Of it. He's like this.
The Sentinel rides up, and he's like, halt, mutant.
And he's like, of course. Nah. He blows his foot off. And then as the Sentinel flies, he crash lands coming into the base, and then Ryan...
Yeah, that was a clumsy Sentinel. He falls straight down and he lands on like a generator.
And then Ryan's like, that's a clumsy Sentinel. And then the next thing you hear is Gyrick says, can't these things learn how to land?
But crashing on the Sentinel deactivates Jubilee's restraints and frees her. Mm-hmm. And then everything goes off. And
that's when we get which was cool because at the beginning of the episode, they go back where they left off. So like, they play the X-Men music when you think they're fighting the Sentinels. It's like right, because it like changes because the Sentinels are getting the upper hand.
Yeah. And
then like it's all going to shit. Like Rogue gets like knocked out of the air, and then Gambit's like, "Woo, Rogue!" Like he picks her up, and he's like, "Cyclops, fire this!" And then when Gambit gets shot at, Rogue flies Gambit away from the scene, and they're all like, "Shit, we're under attack. We're under attack." So this one. It played the like, and it didn't change because they were all going, and then Wolverine, that's one's for you.
Yeah, and he just slashes a Sentinel to pieces.
Which I always felt so bad because, everyone kind of gets beaten up in this episode, but poor Rogue gets like smacked on the back and she was like, you gotta learn better manners, which is great. And then after she punches that thing to shreds, like she grabs his arm and then slams him. Then she gets shot again. And this is where Wolverine comes in, right before he jumps, so that Sentinel's holding his blast on Rogue. It's like, and then Wolverine takes his time climbing up that Sentinel.
Yeah.
He's like,
because
he's stabbing him. He's like, this one's for you, Mark. Like, poor Rogue's getting shot and she's still alive. I know that she's got like a vulnerability, but still, that's gotta hurt.
But it was for Morph, Phil.
It was for Morph. And then, so we learned the woman president. We have Senator Kelly saying, so we have the two kind of stances on there. And it ends with Jubilee sort of accepting who she is, which is cool. We start the Jubilee now wanting to be a mutant. And then by the end of it, she learns that she can make a difference. She accepts herself. And then she says... And then so she leaves and she goes to school. But this line always made me laugh because the foster parents are like, you will visit us, right? And she's like, there's a mall, baby, eat chili fries. Apparently not. She never visits them ever again.
There's no callback to them?
There's no callback to them. The parents, I guess it was just a thing, but Ryan was like, she's like, you're the best foster parents I had. And then Ryan's like, wait a second.
Yeah, her other foster parents must have been terrible. They signed her up to get hunted by robots, and then we're like, it's because you're different. We still love you, though.
You destroyed our VCR.
Ray Stantz is a zero tolerance policy. Like, you know how much this VCR cost? It's fucking 1992.
It's took 2 weeks pay. Pay for this contraption. I like in the first one, she's like, even the arcade manager's like, do you know how much these things cost? Yeah, she was the first like Horatio from CSI Miami when he had a fun saying he put on the sunglasses. She was like, yeah, and she puts on the sunglasses. $quarter. They're like, yeah. But no, that was a mighty pilot. They went for it. They went 2 episodes, part 1 and part 2. They established that these humans, Gyrick and Trask, were the main villains, just humans hunting them down. And then Beast is in jail, Morph is dead. we're the X-Men.
Yeah.
So obviously, and you'll learn that was just the 2 episodes, but later on, if you do you know what the next episode is?
No.
Magneto.
Oh, finally.
Yeah, Enter Magneto is the second one. So get ready.
Doesn't he break Beast out?
He goes to. We'll recap into that next week, but he goes to break Beast out, and then Beast is like, no, I was trespassing. I destroyed.
Yeah, he wants to serve. Yeah, he wants to have a trial.
I want my day in court. Like, I will plead my case to say what you're doing is unlawful to mutants.
Which is also gutsy because kids have no interest in trials.
No.
But
the trial episodes are fun because it's the X-Men. If you think it's going to be Law and Order, you are mistaken, my friend. But yeah, so that was Night of the Sentinels, Part 1 and Part 2. Love it. It's the most, and they really went for it too. Like with speaking to kids, fear what they don't understand. I can't help the way I was born. And then you had to basically learn for the acceptance. So basically, from each episode here on out now, I guess gave them the time to play with. All right, we can tackle Magneto, and we can do the Brotherhood, but we can also tackle the Morlocks, which also are another moral-centric episode.
Yeah.
So more in episode 8.
Episode 8.
Episode 8 of the Neon Nerds podcast will be episodes 3 and 4 of Batman the Animated Series, and episode 3 and 4 of X-Men the Animated Series, which I know 3 is the Magneto one, and then 4, I don't know. I think 5 is Cold Vengeance, which is they introduce Sabretooth.
Oh.
And it's another moral one where it's Wolverine has to go to Alaska to say, because he gets in a fight with the X-Men, because Professor Xavier is like, we need to help Sabretooth. He's a fellow mutant. And Wolverine's like, no, you don't know this guy. I knew this guy. He's not who he is. And they're like, listen. And they basically give Wolverine the ultimatum of like, you can stay or go. We're helping heal this mutant. He's like, I'm going to go somewhere else. So he goes to like Alaska to help the Eskimo people out.
Yeah, my brother had that issue when they fight in like Alaska in the snow. And then like he drew that cover.
X-Men. Because they came out with this series was so popular, they came out with X-Men Adventures, which was just telling the story. One of the artists on the book, his name's John Hebert. I worked with him on Man of War.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So did he tell you any X-Men stories?
Well, no. I think I made him feel old. On the next first production meeting.
You're like, I was in preschool when I watched that cartoon.
I was like, John, and he's like, yeah, right, because we met for the first time there. I was like, listen, I love your Gambit because when I was a kid, some of the first comic books I got were X-Men Adventures. I was like, so a lot of your Gambit like influence like is through my eyes. Like, oh, that's great, and I saw like the smile on his face. I was like, no, John, this is good. I'm a fan of yours. But X-Men Adventures are great. His artwork is fantastic in there because it's a classic 90s kind of style. But this is also based off Jim Lee designs of the X-Men. What is your, because you're a 90s guy. What is your opinion on Gambit, just real quick? Because I know many people who love Gambit hate Gambit, and there's a reason for it.
They hate Gambit? No, I don't hate Gambit. I think it's a cool character.
Yeah. People hate him because he was only part of the X-Men for like a year. And a lot of people were like, he gets in the cartoon series, but not Colossus.
Oh, really? That's what?
Yeah, because before him it was part of the X-Men.
I guess
and they have like a resentment towards it, but I don't know. He was great. He was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at him.
Yeah, I know.
And there's a lot of guys that weren't in the show, or were later, I guess.
I think like Nightcrawler has his great little episodes. Remember?
I love Nightcrawler.
They go to Germany.
I love me some Nightcrawler.
I love.
I'm actually I'm trying to pitch the Nightcrawler movie.
Oh yeah.
All I've got so far is a movie poster.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, that's you. You need to start strong.
Do you want to hear? Do you want?
Of course, I want to hear this.
Do you want to hear the tagline?
Yes.
All right. So I'm shooting for December release, Christmas Day. So on the cover, it's just Nightcrawler, right?
Yeah.
And he's like in the city. He's like, flying between buildings, I guess, kind of. He's like bamfing.
Okay.
And on the bottom it says "Bamfing in the theaters this Christmas." And the tagline is, "Not all elves make toys." And the villain of the movie is MODOK. Because I love MODOK.
Hey, Lee, if you're Lee, I know because you're a great '90s enthusiast who listens to the show. MODOK was awesome in the Iron Man animated film.
Hey, there you go.
With compliment number 3.
Little surprise at the end.
See now, if I were to make a Nightcrawler movie poster,
yeah,
I'd make it like a nativity scene. Like it would be in front of a church. Like it would be it would be a poster, right? We'd still bamfing into Christmas.
Yeah.
But you'd see like the statues that they have with the nativity scene.
Yeah.
So you'd have those statues, but above it would be like just the glowing yellow eyes and like a smoke trail coming from around it. So it's like you bamf to the nativity scene. I don't know who the villain will be. Probably angry people.
Well, now we're going to Hollywood.
Let's go. Okay,
let's pitch this movie. The Nightcrawler movie.
Let's pitch the Nightcrawler. Do you have an actor in mind for Nightcrawler?
No.
I don't know who would be a good Nightcrawler today. I mean, Alan Cummings was pretty.
Yeah, I thought he was a great Nightcrawler.
He was like the amazing Nightcrawler. Right?
Oh, but I'm not gonna. We're doing the costume.
Oh.
I don't care how impractical it is.
His crotch is gonna be sticking out.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know what? Let's get Alan Cummings. What's he like? 55?
He can do it.
We'll paint him blue.
He's blue.
Yeah, we'll paint him blue.
Apparently, that's another reason why they didn't introduce. That's why Beast was in 3 and not in 2, and that's why Nightcrawler was in 2 and not in 3 because Mystique was in there, and they didn't want 3 blue characters in there. Can't believe that. Most of the if there's a color I associate with the X-Men, it's blue.
Yeah.
Their costumes, Cyclops is all up in that blue.
Blue and yellow.
And there's the blue and gold teams. So.
Man.
If you were to pick, let's go. Okay, and if you were. I think what's cool about this is I was going to ask, well, who would you cast in the Batman movie for the animated series?
Yeah.
But it was based off the '89 Batman films. Michael Keaton is still the best Batman.
Really?
Who do you think's the best Batman?
I don't know. I don't have an. There's things I like about all of them. There's things I don't like about all of them.
Do you think? Are you on the Ben Affleck train? Do you think he's gonna be good?
Yeah.
I think he's gonna be excellent.
Yeah.
He's the first actor that looks like Bruce Wayne and Batman. He's got the chin.
Yeah.
For it, and then in the trailer, what reminded me of this was we were watching the animated series, and Batman and Bruce Wayne had that grin, and it's like and Batman grins the first time when he hands the recording going, and he's like, yeah, this ain't a bat, right? He has that grin, and then in the trailer you see Bruce Wayne is like, when he's introduced to Clark Kent, and Clark Kent's like, don't you want to talk about this Bat Vigilante of Justice, right? He's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just used to my city. When he calls him hypocritical,
yeah.
Your guy saves a kitten from a tree.
You write a puff piece.
You write a puff piece about it. And then he's like, maybe it's the Gotham in me, where like all the villains dress up as clowns, and he puts that Bruce Wayne smirk on there. I'm like, I think he's gonna be the best Batman since Michael Keaton. To me, Michael Keaton is my favorite Batman, just because I feel like the most Batman moments were in there. Like even in the first one when they were going up against the Joker goon who had the ninja.
Oh yeah, and
Batman kicks him in the face.
Yeah. I don't know, there's parts like the Burton Batman he kills, which I was like, Batman doesn't kill.
Did he intentionally kill, or was it unintentionally?
What do you mean unintentionally?
He wanted to not let the Joker escape. So.
All right. Well, number 1, he blows up that chemical plant. Okay, countless lives. Number 2, he intentionally puts a bomb in a clown's pants and kicks him, and then he blows up. So it's very intentional.
All right.
And I couldn't get on board with that because Batman doesn't kill. And then when Michael Keaton is in the Batcave, Keaton's curly hair. Like, I like Keaton, but, like, his curly hair just doesn't say Bruce Wayne to me. And then he was also wearing glasses in the Batcave. And I was like, Batman doesn't wear glasses.
Do you think he would? I don't think I've ever read a comic book where Batman wears glasses.
No, he doesn't wear glasses. But yeah. Bruce Wayne, in the Batcave, he was wearing glasses.
My problem with that was they let everybody in the Batcave. Hey, Vicky Bale, come on.
Oh, yeah, everybody. He's like, well, we slept together. But Superman did the same thing. In Superman 2, he sleeps with Lois Lane, and he's like, guess I gotta get rid of my powers.
He loves them and leaves them.
Yeah. I liked Val Kilmer. I thought he was a good Bruce Wayne and a good Batman.
He looks the most like Batman, and up until Batfleck, he was the one that looked most like Batman.
Yeah, I liked Kilmer. And then George Clooney, unsportable. Completely unsportable.
He was like, I thought he was gay, so I played him gay.
Yeah.
But they went into the... I just watched the Batman animated series from 66.
Oh, yeah.
Because my dad was watching. He watched the 70s Wonder Woman. And then my dad on Saturday nights when there's nothing on television, he turns like on Ion TV, like there's channels in the 80s.
Yeah.
When you're like, oh God, no one watches this. Well, my dad, shout out to my dad who watches Ion television. And so Wonder Woman there. And then there was the... Mr. Freeze episode was on. I never saw an episode of Mr. Freeze on the Batman Adam West version.
Yeah.
And he's like Austrian. He's like, we've got to get the spot character. Right? And he was making puns too. He was like, it'll be a cold day before the Cape Crusaders get me. I'm like, oh my God, this is straight up how Arnold got.
Oh, that's what I read that somewhere. That
really
the Schumachers are just Adam West's.
Like a more
they're
serious version of Adam West. But because when I came in today while watching when I came in, he's like, Brian was like, I got a question for you. And then we were watching. He's like, who would you have to be Gambit in the 90s to play in the Gambit movie? How about a young Brad Pitt? That we're going back. I feel like Johnny Depp is too small to be Gambit, and I feel like this is. Brad Pitt was like in the 90s was like, oh my God, he's gonna be on Friends, that hunk of man.
Yeah, he's pretty gaunt too.
Yeah, he's got the, and it would have been a good choice because you see him in Inglourious Bastards and he's doing that voice. So I have faith he could pull off the accent.
You know who I was gonna cast if we're in the 90s? I'm a casting director. I'm casting Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's already played Cajun in Hard Target.
I love JCVD movies are the best.
He's perfect for the role. The only thing is, because it's Van Damme, at some point in the game movie, he's going to do an unprovoked split.
I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it. Imagine him with the bow staff, and, like, these guys are, like, gonna, like, he's fighting off two guys. They go to run, and he does a split, gets the bow staff, and it's under the jaws. Like, he knocks each one out with the bow staff while in the split position.
Hold on, I'm writing this down.
Oh, look, Channing Tatum.
What we have to do is we have to write a script for the Gambit movie for JCVD. Go back in time, make this movie before Time Cop JCVD finds us.
Oh my goodness, he would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Heather loves Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh,
you made her day too.
Well then this is going to be the best episode yet.
Oh boy, I love. This is such a fun time because we had the Crunch and Munch pizza. I just looked it up. It's a Crunch and Munch. Please sponsor the Neon Nerds podcast.
Yeah, it's on the Instagram.
Yeah,
so they can see if they don't know what Crunch and Munch looks like.
Yeah, they know what Crunch and Munch and Pizza Hut. Maybe we'll get a Pizza Hut endorsement too.
Yeah, I wanted to today, but I had Chinese before you came over.
That's all right.
We're not really good at coordinating.
That's all right. You can't do everything together, Ryan. You're allowed to eat Pizza Hut and Chinese food on different days. But at Little Caesars.
Oh, before you came over? Oh, man. We kind of food cheated on each other.
I know. It's all right. At least we're open and honest.
All right.
Nerds podcast. So, what do you think? What do you think for next week's podcast? We've had people write in.
We have.
We've had people write in to suggest topics. If you want to suggest topics, again, message us over Facebook. You can like the page on Nerds Podcast or email us. people loved us going after Jason Serafino for when we railed into him for Image. That we've had requests for an Image episode.
An Image episode?
For I know Ryan has been on record in the early episodes loving Spawn.
Yeah.
I too love Spawn because I love Todd McFarlane's artwork. Savage Dragon.
Eric Larson.
You got
Youngblood by Liefeld.
I Love Wildcats by Jim Lee.
Yeah.
Grifter was basically a Gambit knockoff.
Yeah.
But still, it's cool to have. They had the X-Men Wildcats crossover, and they purposely had Grifter and Gambit on opposite ends of the cover, just because Jim Lee was a master, like saying, all right, we got a trench coat guy on this team, and a trench coat guy on this team. So, but I love Grifter. When they brought him in the DC universe, I was happy, because I was like...
Yeah, they brought him, and they brought Hellspawn.
Yeah.
He's in Superman now. Yeah. Which is kind of cool.
It's...
Because he's like a...
Image influence. He's probably a fan of the New 52 now. Agrifield's taking a break this week. But no, because Grifter and Liefeld... Grifter was a good series. I enjoyed it. But like the storytelling was a little out of whack. So they had Rob Liefeld come in and basically just do the story of it. Just like... It was written... I forget who wrote it. But Liefeld came in and was like, all right, he did the layouts for the book. And he even did some inking on the book. So Grifter has like the classic 90s like curl of like the bandana mask that he wears. Yeah. It's cool. So are you up for it? And we also have Marvel versus DC.
Yeah, I put that one in the pipeline.
Yeah, because we had people are comparing the Civil War trailer
to the Batman vs Superman. There's a lot of hate going around.
Yeah.
We're not going to take it. I mean, we should do the Image one.
Do the Image one?
Okay. Yeah, because listeners suggested it, and we don't want to just toss them aside. So, yeah.
So we'll talk about Image. So get your Spawn out. Get your Savage Dragon, the very underrated Eric Larson, and get your Wildcats out. Jim Lee. Jim Lee's design for those characters, they're so great. You can tell he used the X-Men. You could tell because he left the X-Men to go to Image. So you have the characters look like certain aspects. Like you're like, all right, this guy was based off Cyclops, only he's wearing blue and red.
Was it Spartan, right?
Yep. You have Grifter, who's based off of Gambit. He got the trench coat. He's got the wild, gravity-defying hair. Yeah. And he's like a con man. Like, Gambit's the thief, Grifter's the con man. So you kind of got that illegal path.
I was more into Youngblood. I never read Wildcats, but Youngblood's Shaft, Bedrock, and then they changed it to it was Bedrock, then they changed it to Bedrock. Yeah. Then you got Sentinel, Proton, Die Hard. Die Hard was the man.
I never got into Youngblood. I was more into Wildcats.
Uh-oh.
So here we go, the Neon Nerds podcast.
Battle lines are drawn.
Okay, do you want to do we'll do a head-to-head. We'll make a list of I'll make a list of Wildcat stuff. You make a list of Youngblood, and we'll go over it. Okay. And we'll put them in a battle.
And we'll see. Oh, who's gonna win?
It's more just us defending it.
Yeah, because we're gonna show how little we know.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have Youngblood 4. I have like 8 copies of Youngblood 4.
Oh man.
But Spawn, I mean, we can talk about that.
Spawn. Oh my God, Todd McFarlane is the man. Like he did a story with Alan Moore, and the cover was, he did a cover of Spawn, which was basically riffing off of his Spider-Man Torment covers with the black and red suits. That was cool.
Yeah, that issue, he's not even in it.
No, he's not in it. It's like a dream sequence.
It's about that guy, Billy Kincaid in hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I know. We know.
Our Spawn knowledge runs deep. Yeah. Here. So, next week on the Neon Nerds podcast, we've got, we'll be talking about Image Comics. We'll talk about the Image influence, and I think it'll be a kind of cool thing to talk about where those creators are today. Yeah. And we'll talk about a little bit of how Image kind of formed into where they are now, because they were primarily superhero, which is our 90s, and if you look at it now, you've got The Walking Dead, you've got Velvet, You've got sex criminals. They're not superhero related, but except for Spawn and Savage Dragon.
And Invincible, right?
And Invincible. Robert Kirkman did Invincible, so I like that series. So we won't talk much about current Image.
Yeah, because that's not 90s.
It's not 90s, and face it, when you bring out Youngblood and Wildcats, C.A.D.N. When you got Wildcats and Youngblood and Savage Dragon and Spawn and Image United, where they had the giant crossover of all of the Image titles. That was great, because Jim Lee's still in the industry. Todd McFarlane is still running Image to this day. Mark Silvestri, he created The Darkness.
Isn't he Top Cow?
Top Cow, yeah. But he worked for Image.
And then he went to Top Cow.
Yeah.
He started Top Cow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Liefeld's still around too.
Liefeld is doing Deadpool covers.
Yeah.
Hey, don't diss Rob Liefeld. He just did a Cable cover. He did the first cover of Cable when he was introduced. It had him with the New Mutants and like them on there. Iron Man's like where Cable is, and there's like all different Deadpools like making different faces in there. But so again, if you want past episodes, should go to our YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com and search Neon Nerds Podcast. Subscribe so then we can get the certain amount of subscriptions to basically have our own HTML. We had a certain amount, so then we can go youtube.com/Neon Nerds Podcast. You can check out the Ben Reilly episode. Is up there. When you listen to this, it will be up there. Superman, the Superman Reign of Angry Phil.
Not safe for work.
Not safe. Yeah, that one is.
NFSW, NFSK. Not safe for kids.
This is an 18 plus. And then obviously the first episode's on there, so like them, subscribe, and starting next year, we're going to have all the episodes up on iTunes, because right now each episode replaces the other one, so unless you download the previous episodes, you won't be able to hear them the next week. So download them, and if not, you don't fret. They'll be up on YouTube with the visual aids. And yeah. Do you want to do your final thoughts to wrap up the show?
Sometimes when we're kids, we watch cartoons and we enjoy them like candy. We don't really consider them. But maybe going back and watching them, we get a fonder appreciation for them.
Better taste.
Take care of yourselves and each other.
All right. This is another episode for the Neon Nerds Podcast. I'm Phil McNulty.
I'm Ryan Brady. Neon Nerds out!